Hey everyone, welcome back to Shattering Ceilings. It's Lauren.
And Megan. And today we are here to talk about what the heck do you do when you're in the thick of it? So, over our last few episodes, we talked about reflecting, creating your goals, right? And breaking those goals down into a plan. Now we're here to talk about what happens when, you're going along on that plan and you hit a bump in the road. How do we
Yeah.
recover? How do we move through that? Um,
Yeah. I think again, just to kind of say again what you said, we all probably did do the reflecting part,
mhm.
hopefully wrote the goals out, and now you're like, okay, I know what I want. Now what do I do? Or maybe you did start to implement some of the actionable steps to get to where you want to be. And like Meg said, you hit some kind of block, right? Which is totally normal. Like, this is not like, I know that sometimes it really like throws us like for a loop or we feel like shitty about it, but like this is inevitable. We
Well,
are
life
all going to
happens,
experience
right?
this. Yes,
You have
absolutely.
surprise things come up that you're not anticipating. Our
Mhm,
energy levels, shift throughout the month, the year, the whatever.
mhm, right.
Work requirements change. Like stuff is constantly in flux. So, how
Mhm.
do we stay the course when all of the external factors are
Yeah,
changing?
exactly. Right. Life is going on around us. So I know for me, me and Megan, we talk pretty much daily. So we know each other's, goals. Plus we have a lot together. And the one thing that I can say that we kind of came up against recently too is like me and Meg, we've talked about before on this podcast. We are wanting to launch our coaching, which we have. When you hear this, it'll be the
Yes.
day before our first free masterclass, which is pretty exciting.
Yes. So, there's still time to get in, guys.
Yes,
Just to throw that
exactly.
out there.
Yes, you're right. And we realized like we were moving at turtle speed. If that is even a thing, I don't even think it's turtle speed. It's more like Meg said, a turtle pace.
We were we were moving. It was just, I mean, we might as well be crawling on the ground.
And not because we didn't want to, more because we were getting, like, wrapped up in the how, right? Which we also kinda talked
Mhm.
about. Like, we are not tech people. We're not techie people. We don't know really what's available as far as, like, apps and stuff and, like, how to navigate, like, online course creation, like, behind the scenes stuff, guys, like,
Yeah.
to get it to you, to get you, like, how to sign up, like, emails, like, stuff like that, like, automation, like, things like that. We are, like, learning that as we go, which tip number 1, like, start messy. You do not have to know the how, because clearly, like, again, that's what was holding us back in a lot of ways is wanting to know so much of the how and, like, just getting caught up in that, right?
Right. So to be specific in this situation, like there are so many different ways that you can send automated emails, that you can, you know, create email lists and create landing pages. There's so many apps out there. And for us,
Mhm.
where do you start?
Right.
Right? What's the most cost effective? What one has the easiest platform to maneuver through? And so we spent a lot of time looking at these
Mm.
different things, talking about different things, but we weren't actually taking any action steps. We weren't moving
Mhm.
the needle forward. So we decided the other week, they're like, fuck it. We're going to do this masterclass. We will
Mhm.
pick one. Which one do we know the most about? For us, it was Convert Kit, however you say it. And
Yeah.
we just went with it. And then we're figuring stuff out on the way.
Right.
So you don't always have to know what it looks like. We keep harping
Mhm.
on that. But so
Yeah.
what happens when you're chugging along and
Mhm.
something comes up, right? We're in the thick of it. We
Mhm.
start to have those self limiting beliefs come up that we keep talking about. The
Right.
fear comes up, right? You have that week that your energy level is low, where you're not getting as good a sleep, or, whatever happens.
Mhm.
And you're just procrastinating, right? Because you
Mhm.
feel tired. You don't want to get up and do the thing that's going to move the needle forward. How
Right.
do we navigate those situations? And we have a couple of different ways that we use, and one new that I have never used. But was brought to my attention, and it makes sense, or brought to our attention the other day in a conversation we had. So let's
Mhm.
start with accountability.
Yes. Yes. Obviously, having someone that you can check in with and
Mhm.
share either limiting beliefs or like what's happening right now, and share your wins too, your ups, your downs, like all in between.
Yes, that part's
And
so important because then when you
yes,
are having these down parts, like, you're like, "Oh, I feel like crap," then your accountability partner's like, "Yeah, but last week you had such a great win, like, don't forget about
right,
this part," right? So you have somebody
exactly.
that's helping you hold that vision.
Mhm. And they're also, though, not letting you, like, bullshit your way through it.
Yeah, and they're to
Right? They're
help
gonna
you
call
when
you
you're
on it.
feeling stuck, you're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm here, I don't know where to go now. Okay, let's walk through this. What's the
Mhm.
first step?" We had a
Right.
conversation about this, like, 2 hours ago. What
Mhm.
is the next step? What is the f
Mhm.
like, what feels attainable, right?
Right.
Because we have to be realistic. We're not
Yes.
superhuman.
Right.
Our lives stretch us in so many different directions. So
Mhm.
sometimes those steps might feel infinitesimal or whatever, that little, the tiniest little bit,
Mhm.
but it's
Mhm.
still moving.
Yes.
What is that thing that you can accomplish? And then maybe the next day or the next week when your energy's back up, when life looks a little bit different, then you can take a bigger step.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so important, the accountability piece.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing too that we implemented, me and Meg, was time blocking. So again,
Yes. So creating a
–
plan.
creating a plan, like, again, if you're feeling like you don't have the energy, or maybe you have so many things going on where you're scattered, right? It's
Mhm.
important to block off time that you know is intentionally for whatever that goal or task is, right? So me and Meg
Yeah.
did that as well. Like, we knew we needed to move our pace a little further, right? And get it going. So we decided that we were going to block off amounts of time, and this is again the accountability piece coming in. Megan said to me, because I am so the guilty one of this, she was like, "No play dates, no, like, coffee dates, no, like like,
Right,
this
it's a
is our work
non-negotiable.
time." Right, it's a
Right? Like,
non-negotiable.
to go back to our favorite girl, Danielle, like, that's something she talks about a lot. You create non-negotiables. So now
Right.
before where we were working our business stuff in around our schedules,
Mhm.
which was a time suck because every week we're like, "Okay, what's your schedule on this day? What's your schedule on
Right.
this day?" Now it's
Exactly.
blocked in. You put it in as an
Mhm.
appointment on your Google Calendar, and then
Mhm.
you can't put anything else in there because 'cause you're already
Yeah.
busy,
Right.
you know?
It's work time, and that's
Yeah.
basically how you have to look at it too. Like, even if your goal isn't necessarily job or career related, you have to
Yeah.
look at that as, again, like Meg said, non-negotiable, and that is your work time. If
Right.
you wouldn't call out of your job or tell your boss, "Oh, I can't make that meeting," then don't do it to yourself when it's your goal for you, right? Like, your
Right.
goals are worth it. You are worth it. So you need to make sure
Right.
that you take the
So
time.
that's like you guys, if it's journaling, if it's meal prep, if it's
Mhm.
working out,
Mhm.
right? If it's taking time to call your mother, if like whatever that goal may be, it
Mhm.
takes some amount of time. If it's deepening your self love, that's
Mhm.
something you have to practice, right? Whether you're practicing gratitude or working on affirmations or doing shadow work,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Pencil it in as if it's an appointment.
Yes.
Okay. And then create a plan so this is the second thing, create a plan for when things do go awry. So say you do have
Mhm.
a kid that gets sick, or you know that your energy levels waver throughout the month. So maybe it doesn't make sense for you. If your goal is to go to the gym, right?
Mhm.
And you want to get these hour workouts in 3 times a week, but you hit a week, maybe for us women, it's around our menstrual cycle, right?
Mhm.
And we're feeling a little more lethargic. What can you do on those weeks that
Mhm.
you're not going to realistically make it to the gym, or that you'd be more likely to fall back on your goals, right?
Mhm.
So maybe you stay home and you do a little restorative yoga, or you
Mhm.
do a meditation, or you go get a massage, but you have something that's keeping you in the routine of at that period of time in the day, you're taking care of yourself,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. And
What's
it's
the plan when you
it
don't hit a goal? Yeah.
yeah. I think another tip too that is helpful is changing up your environment, right?
Yes.
Those of us, which is definitely more common nowadays, a lot of us work from home, right? Or work from wherever we can bring our laptop or phone, whatever. And the problem with being at home is there are so many things that you can, or in air quotes, should be doing other than your
Yes.
job, like laundry and cooking and cleaning up and whatever it may be, right? And so I know for me last week, like me and Meg had a work session and I took it to the coffee shop so that I could just focus on like what we had to do. And then I did some other work for my other business. But it was great. I was there for like an hour and a half and I got so much done because I was literally there with my laptop and my phone and like that's all that I could do. And it was nice too because I felt I don't know, like it was just nice to not like be in my house around all my stuff. Like they had vibey music on. It was kind of cool to see people come in and out, like smiling at different
Right.
people like that. I know for me, like that's an energy amplifier for me, like seeing different faces and saying hi and all the kind, even though like some people would think it's a distraction for me, it's not. I'm like, oh, I love this. Um probably doesn't surprise you, right, Meg?
No, not
But
at all.
but I did, like, me and Meg got a lot done that day, and it was just nice to step out too, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I need to do that more. I'm sitting here in my office now thinking about, like, before we started recording, like, the laundry's right next to us. This room needs to be picked up. I've got bathrooms to
Mhm.
clean. And if I'm
Yeah,
not in the space, that goes away.
right. Exactly.
Remove the distractors. If you have a lot of distractors, how can you make it easier for yourself? Because you're going to attain the goal with more ease if you take the
Mhm.
proper steps, right, to create that ease for yourself. Because it's not always just there.
Right.
I talk to people all the time about meditation, and they're like, yeah, but I don't have a quiet space in my room or in my house, to do this for 10 or 15 minutes. I'm like, yeah, but then that's not even the practice, right? Because life is
Mm,
never still and quiet and the perfect conditions for
right.
anything. It's about finding ease and
Mhm.
comfort in those uncomfortable or, distracting situations.
Mhm.
But we don't always have to be in the depths of it. So if you can remove the obstacles sometimes, go for
Mhm.
it. And if
Yeah.
you can't, find out ways that you can work with it.
Mhm. I
So
love
it's
that.
taking a lot more thought. We're being very intentional. I think that's what a lot of this comes down to is like being intentional about the steps. Find
Mhm.
somebody to help you stay on task that you can also help keep on task, right? Make plans of action for when things go awry. Do the time blocking, being intentional with your time, right?
Mhm.
Intentionally removing distractions. And then the one that I think is really cool that we haven't tried, but I'm going to try because I mentioned to y'all the other day that I'm really good at starting a goal and not finishing it, is putting in little rewards for yourself. So we made those big goals, we broke them down into smaller goals, right? So giving a little reward to yourself or
Mhm.
taking a time for acknowledgement. So maybe the rewards like I go and get a massage, or
Mhm.
the reward is I take myself out to dinner,
Yeah.
or whatever
It could be a walk.
feels good for you.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
like
have to be anything like where you're spending money either. Like I got
yeah.
my work done that I was supposed to from 9 to 11. So I'm going to go for a nice peaceful walk or stick my earbuds in and put on some music, jam out, like
Yes.
whatever, like whatever
Yeah.
lights you up or whatever's going to bring you energy, get you excited and go do that. Right. Cause I think sometimes it's like we jam so many things into our day or our schedule and we're like, oh, I don't have time for that. And it's like, but you really should. Like, you really do
Right.
need that, right? To just keep you going, because otherwise, like Meg says too, like, it's not sustainable if we're just go, 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 and we're not acknowledging the things that, we are accomplishing.
Yeah, I think sustainable is such a good thing to bring up because we try to, you hear people from all different camps talking about New Year's
Mhm.
resolutions, and some people are super for it. Some people are like, no, I'm good right here. Like, I don't need to have New Year's resolutions.
Mhm.
Yes, true. We don't have to put these big, grandiose things on ourselves.
No.
And for the most part, everybody has something that they're working towards at any given point in time.
Mhm.
So, how do we make those changes sustainable so we don't find ourselves starting back at zero? You know what I mean? Like, or running off the rails so often, I guess I should say.
And that's another good point you just said, Meg, because like the thing is, guys, like we really have to be intentional about our mindset too, because we're never starting back at zero. Like
Of
we've heard
course.
that a lot too, right? Like I know I beat myself up and Meg has to remind me like, but you're not where you were before. You're now here. Look at what you've done, right? A lot of times we just like blow everything up and we act like we are back at zero, but you learned something before that to bring you to where you are. So again, it
Yes.
may not be exactly where you want to be, but you know what I mean? Like you did move to a certain point, now it's just about taking it to the next, right?
Right. It's like, I don't know why this analogy just popped up in my head, but like a game of shoots and ladders, right?
Oh,
Like
such a good
you're not
game.
going, I know, when you have to go down that slide, you're not starting all the way back at zero.
Right. You're
Even though
not.
sometimes it feels like it when you're in
Yeah.
the game, you're like, oh my God, everybody's so far ahead of me. Like
Mhm,
now I have to do
mhm.
these things over again. But then maybe you hit that staircase that takes you up 3 freaking rows and you're
Mm,
like, holy shit. Like if I would
mhm.
have given up, I would have never
Right.
gotten to this point. And then you go down the next slide and maybe it's a little smaller that time, you know, more
Yeah.
manageable. And then you hit the staircase again. And eventually you will get to the finish.
I love that. It's such a good analogy. And
I
it
don't know why that
reminds me,
popped up.
I'm like, "Oh my god, my kids don't have that game, and they would totally love that game."
It's such a
Yeah.
good one. It's so
Yeah.
great for learning. And like I think back to
I
when you were a
never
kid,
thought of
right?
it
When you were
that
playing those
way.
games,
Yeah, but, like, no one
you
ever
know?
explained that to me. Like, if my parents sat down and explained it to me how you just did, I'd be like, "Wow, that's a big life lesson that I just bypassed of learning later
Right?
in life." Yeah. Because
Right?
think about that. That's a huge one though, right? That holds so many of us back too. So, like, let's talk about
Mhm.
that a little bit, right? Like, comparison, okay? Like,
Yes.
when we talk about creating goals, right? Now it's in your field. Like you are looking for this goal and you're probably noticing everyone else around you. If you're on social
Mhm.
media, maybe amongst your friend groups, whatever, that already has attained that. And you're like, gosh, they're so much farther ahead, like you just said, Meg. And right. So, like, sometimes it's like, why even start? I'm too old
Right.
for this, or I'm too far along for
Or
that.
I
Like,
can't do this. Like
right. I
there's
can't learn
something
a new
intrinsically
skill.
wrong with me to
Mhm.
that I can't accomplish that. Oh, I have that story.
We have that story, both I think we
Yeah.
all have that story at some point, like, even I mean, going back to, like, what we were just talking about in the beginning of this, like, we don't know how exactly to use all these apps or what apps to use for the things that we wanna do, and
Yeah.
that held us back for a while, but then we decided, again, we're just picking one, we're moving forward, and we're going to learn along the way, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
like, that's the part of it, and I think to kinda wrap everything up, probably the biggest piece that holds most of us back is that fear. It's that
Mhm.
fear of, again, like, what are people going to say about what I'm doing or
Right.
doing this goal,
Judgment,
or what if I
failure.
don't, yeah, failure, what if I don't make it, and, like, we had an interview, which you guys are gonna hear very soon, actually, I think the week after this one airs, and it was Amanda Nelson, and she just said, like, "I got confident, I built my bravery by doing the shit that just scared me over and over and over again." And I have been thinking about that since, like, that interview that we had,
Mhm.
and it's fueled me so much because when I really think about it, like, how dumb is it that we literally hold ourselves back because we're afraid of looking stupid to other people? Like,
Right.
that is so crazy to me, but
Right,
it's
and then the people that we're
true.
looking at, let's
Yeah.
just take a second to the people that we're looking at, I think Amanda's a great example of that because she's had
Mhm,
great success
mhm.
in multiple fields, like,
Yes.
everything she does, she seems to find success in,
Mhm.
and it's because she's not letting that fear take over. The
Right.
people that are having great success
Mhm.
see that fear and they're like, "Challenge accepted." You know what
Right.
I mean? And they
Mhm.
fucking run forward and burn the boats.
Right. And it may
That's
look
how it works.
like they have no fear, but, like, let's be honest, guys, like, everyone has some kind of fear especially when it's
Yeah,
brand new, something they've never done, or a skill that they're learning, like, everyone does have that, but they may not show it because they're so, like, focused on and they have that vision in their head of where they wanna be that they just kinda they don't pay attention to that. They're like,
right, and they
"Yeah,
don't worry about getting rid of it, they just work with
mm-mm."
it. They know it's
Right.
there and they don't let it take the
Thank
driver's
you.
seat.
Such a good point, Meg. Like, and I can be this could be me totally, but there's so many times where I'm like, I have to work through this and I feel like I need to get over this. And the thing is, like, are we ever going to get over it? Can we just have it
Right,
and still move forward? We can,
right,
right? Like,
right. I think we talked about this a while before, like, calling out, like, when you're feeling uncomfortable or when something like, call that shit out to yourself, like, "Okay, I'm feeling scared. Cool. Is this fear enough that I don't wanna actually have this thing? Like, is this fear more
mm,
important? Does it have
mhm,
more weight than this goal that I'm trying to attain?"
right, right.
But that's how you get better at it. You're in
Mhm,
practice with facing those fears. It's going to
mhm,
be hard when you're a beginner. You're going to fail, but with each failure, you're going to realize I didn't die. I'm still here. I learned something. You know what I mean? And it makes that
Mhm.
next step a little bit easier. And
Yeah.
then the things that are you're running up against are bigger, right? Our problems
Mhm.
get bigger. We're facing larger fears. We're
Mhm.
making bigger jumps.
Yeah, absolutely. I just I mean, my, like, ideal, like, world really is to see people running after the things that they really want, the things that they're really passionate about, with fear and all, but they're still going after it and they're living their most authentic life, right? They're
Yeah.
doing the things that really light them up. They're not stuck in this box, paralyzed by all the things that scare them or all the things that could happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When really like, one thing I heard more recently too was like, you know, having faith and having doubts are both believing in something that hasn't happened yet. Why
Right.
would you choose to believe in the negative? Like
Right.
doubt. Why
And you
wouldn't
can
you
do
want to
that as a
put right?
practice, right? Like,
Yeah.
think about the worst case scenario, then think
Mhm.
about the best case scenario and realize you're probably going to end up somewhere in between.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
like, but
Yeah.
it's a very, very rare that you end up in that worst case scenario. Like, look,
Mhm.
this is barring things that is putting you in actually like dangerous situations. Don't
Mhm.
go cliff diving, if you're not experiencing cliff
Right.
diving, like to face that fear of your like fall, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but with
Yes.
realistic shit, like here
Yeah.
you are, your fear's right next to you, and you're fucking going anyways. Cause why
Mhm.
not? Like, let it be your friend. Call that shame out, call that fear out, call those
Mhm.
self-limiting beliefs out, and
Mhm.
recognize that you have them and
Mhm.
continue to move because they
Mhm.
may not ever go away, but our relationship with it can change.
Yes. Yes, and that is what, again, moves you into the camp that Amanda Nelson's in, where I'm just like, "Whoa." Like,
Yeah. Like,
amazing.
let's get there.
Yes. I am so ready for it. I just feel like it's so freeing too. You know what I mean? It
Mm,
really is freeing to be able to move without, again, being so worried about what others are gonna think or again, that failure or any of that. Like, just
yeah.
start. Just do it, you know?
Yeah. Not to be
Mhm.
morbid, but like when we die, when we're on our deathbed, when we're at the end of our days, like
Mhm.
that transition, that moon phase of life, if you will, like
Mhm.
you are not going to remember any of these things that you were scared about now unless you let them keep you from doing what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And you're
Yep.
dealing with the realization that you missed out on something that could have been life changing for you,
Mhm.
big or small,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you let the fear win. So when we're holding that master vision, like keep that in mind too. We only get
Mhm.
to do this life once. Who knows what happens next, right? Everybody's got their different version of what happens after this life. But this one only happens once. We
Mhm.
don't get to go backwards. We all know. I feel like since 2020's hit, there's like a freaking time warp. I don't know, but time just seems to be moving so much faster. All the more reason to just go forward.
Mhm.
Just keep fucking going, guys.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's all we got for today.
I think it is. We shall see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.